In this video, I'm going to show you how to use a software application called LoggerPro to make graphs. So from now on, when we do labs in class, you'll make your graphs using this software, or you can use Google Sheets or graphical analysis if you'd like as well. But basically, you're not going to be doing them on paper anymore unless it's a quiz or a worksheet. So when you install and open the LoggerPro software, it tries to put a data table and a graph up on the screen for you. The first thing you want to do is click on this graph and press delete on your keyboard to get rid of it. Because what we're going to do is we're going to just have a big data table on this first page. For the Puck lab, our data was clock reading and position. And to make those changes, you can double click on the X and the Y here. So I'll double click on the X. That's going to be my clock reading, short name, and the units that we used for clicks. The neat thing is, because this is our independent variable, I can generate the values. I'm going to start from 0. You guys probably went up to 30 or something. I'm just going to take data from one of the worksheets that we've done in class and just go to 6, step by 1. And it will fill that out for me. Next, on the y-axis, I'll have my position. Position is X. Unfortunately, you can't put the little arrowhead on it. I'm sorry about that. Because this is our dependent variable, we can't generate the values here either. We need to type them in. Like I said, I'm just taking some sample data from a worksheet that we had. So now we're going to make the rest of the columns that we need to make all of our graphs. We need to make a position time graph, a position time squared graph, and a velocity versus time graph. So to make the clock reading squared, if you go to the data menu, there are two kinds of columns here that we're making. What we've just done, those are called manual columns where you type the data in. We're going to make a calculated column because I'm going to calculate it using numbers from the other columns. This is going to be called clock reading squared. Short name, T. And over here, I can hit superscript 2. And my units then will be click squared. Sorry about that. That didn't fit on the screen. Down here where it says expression, I'm going to put the instructions for how to get this column filled out. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take another column, the one that we called clock reading, and I'm going to square it. That's the caret, which is the exponent, and a 2. And that will show up there. If you don't like all these extra decimal places, you can double click on the column, come up here to the options tab, and change them to whatever you want those to be. You can also change things like what color the data shows up in and what symbol will be used on the graphs. My next calculated column will be displacement. There I'm going to use the Greek upper delta x centimeters. And now I want to take the position column and find the difference for each successive value. That's a function that's included in LoggerPro called the delta, the delta function, delta position. You can type this in manually if you want to, but if you don't get it exactly right, then LoggerPro won't understand what you're doing. So there's my displacement. Again, you can kind of change your data table by dragging in and out. To get it to show what you want. Again, let's change this. Maybe 1 decimal place. Our next calculated column is going to be time interval. again, to get the delta function, it's here in the functions, pick the function delta. And we're going to perform that function on the clock reading column. And again, let's change we don't need any decimal places there. Next, we're going to need the average velocity. Here, I don't need to pick any of the functions, but I do need to use the column for displacement. I'm going to divide that column by the time interval. There we go. Keep forgetting to change the number of decimals, I'm sorry. Our last column is interesting. We need to make the middle time column. To do that, if this were a more powerful spreadsheet program, we could tell it that you need to subtract this clock reading from this clock reading. Or I'm sorry, that you need to add these two clock readings together and divide by 2. But instead, what we'll do is we'll tell LoggerPro that we want to take that clock reading column. So with a velocity of 5, I want it to go not with 1 and not with 0, but with halfway between 1 and 0. So I'm going to take the 1 and I'm going to subtract half of the delta. Okay. And that looks like it did it. And so these are the columns that we need. Now, if I double click where it says dataset, I can change this. So our first puck was incline number 8. And what we're going to do is we're going to make, after you get all of your data in for one incline, you're going to go ahead and go to Data, New Dataset, and it makes a whole nother dataset. We can double click up there and change this to incline, whatever other incline you did, and you can put in your new data. If you want to, you can double click on this and auto-generate the values. But here you need to type in your new values. And again, I'm just going to make something up. So that's how you get your data into LoggerPro. Keep in mind that you need to save. And in the next video, I'll show you how to graph.